Oil has ruined more countries than it has ever saved. It promised wealth. It delivered chaos. Booms that collapsed economies. Money that vanished faster than it arrived. This is the story of the one country that saw all of that coming and said no. On a cold day in the late 1960s, something strange happened in the North Sea. Not on land, not in a city, but far offshore, beneath freezing waves and endless grey skies. Norway, a country of fishermen, forests, and fjords, hit oil. A lot of it. Not a trickle, not a rumour. Black gold beneath icy waters. The kind of discovery that makes headlines, changes maps, and rewrites national destinies. For most countries, this is where the story goes wrong. Very wrong. Because oil doesn't just bring money, it brings temptation. Sudden wealth hits an economy like a shockwave. Currencies strengthen too fast. Exports become uncompetitive. Local industries collapse. Governments stop planning and start spending. Politics turns personal. Institutions weaken. Power concentrates. Long-term thinking gets replaced by short-term gain. It's happened again and again and again. From South America to Africa to the Middle East. Economists even gave it a name. The resource curse. A cruel paradox where the countries with the most natural wealth often end up poorer, less stable, and more divided. And in the late 1960s, Norway was standing right at the edge of it. The oil was real, the money was coming, the danger was obvious. Most nations in that position didn't hesitate. They drilled fast, spent faster, and hoped for the best. Norway didn't. Instead of celebrating, it paused. Instead of asking, how much can we make? It asked, how could this go wrong? And when the oil companies arrived with contracts, promises, and very convincing smiles, Norway looked at oil and said, no, not no to oil. No to losing control. No to gambling the future. No to becoming another cautionary tale. This was the moment everything could have fallen apart. Or if played right, set the country on a completely different path. This is Norway, not an empire, not a superpower. 5.5 million people, more sheep than humans, a long coastline, thin soil, and winters that never seem to end. For most of its history, Norway wasn't rich. It lived off fish, timber, shipping, hard work, thin margins, and careful planning. So when oil was discovered in 1969, it wasn't just an opportunity. It was a shock. Suddenly, one of Europe's quieter countries was sitting on enormous wealth. Foreign oil companies arrived fast. They brought engineers, contracts, and experience Norway didn't yet have. And they brought an offer that sounded very reasonable. Let us handle this. We'll extract the oil. You'll get your share. Everyone wins. This was the path most countries took. Quick development, quick money, minimal control. And in the short term, it worked. But Norway looked around. It looked at other oil-rich nations, at how fast money arrived, and how fast things fell apart. It noticed a pattern. Countries that rushed lost leverage. Countries that outsourced control outsourced their future. Once the oil was flowing, it was already too late to renegotiate. So Norway did something unusual. It slowed everything down. Before drilling aggressively, before spending a single krone, the government wrote rules, clear ones. Rules about ownership, rules about taxation, rules about who ultimately decides what happens to the oil. And at the center of it all was one principle. The oil belongs to the people, not politicians, not private companies, not foreign shareholders, the people. That idea changed everything, because it meant oil wasn't a lottery win, it was a responsibility, and Norway was about to treat it like one. The first move was simple. The state took control. Norway didn't leave oil to chance, or to the market, or to whoever showed up first. Instead, it created a national oil company, Statoil, today known as Equinor. But that wasn't the clever part. The clever part was what Norway didn't do. Because history had already shown what usually happens next. Governments spend first and think later. They flood the economy with easy money. Wages jump overnight, prices rise, exports suffer. The future gets traded for comfort in the present. Norway refused. It slowed production. On purpose. Not because it lacked the ability to drill faster, but because oil, once taken from the ground, is gone forever. So Norway limited how much oil could be extracted, year by year. Decision by decision. They didn't flood the economy. They didn't splurge. They didn't burn the future to make today feel richer. Instead, they asked a question almost no oil nation ever asks. What about the next generation? What happens when the oil runs out? What happens when prices crash? Because this wasn't just about oil. It was about turning temporary wealth into something permanent, about using oil without letting oil use the country. And with that question, Norway stepped off the path most countries took, not by rejecting oil, but by taking control of it. Norway didn't trust luck, and it didn't trust politicians to resist temptation forever. So it did something rare. It wrote rules, hard rules, rules about where the money goes, rules about how much can be spent, rules about who controls it, and most importantly, rules about what can't be touched. Every krona earned from oil didn't go into the budget. It went somewhere else, far away from daily politics, far away from election cycles, far away from short-term thinking. In the 1990s, Norway created something unprecedented, a national savings account, not for a government, not for corporations, but for the entire country. And for people who weren't even born yet, it was called the Government Pension Fund Global. But despite the name, it wasn't really about pensions. It was about restraint. The oil money wasn't spent at home. It was invested abroad. Stocks, bonds, real estate, across thousands of companies, in dozens of countries. Why? So the oil wouldn't overheat the economy, so Norway wouldn't depend on it. So when oil prices fell, the country wouldn't. And then came the most important rule of all. Each year, the government was allowed to spend only a tiny fraction of the fund, not the principal, just the returns, about 3%. That's it. No matter how tempting it was, no matter how high oil prices climbed, no matter who was in power, the rules stayed. Boom years, still 3%. Crashes, still 3%. Because once you break discipline, you never get it back. Over time, the fund grew, quietly, relentlessly. While other countries spent their oil wealth, Norway let its oil wealth work, decade after decade, until one day the numbers stopped making sense. Hundreds of billions, then a trillion, then more. Not from drilling faster, but from waiting longer. And that's when the world started paying attention. Because Norway had done something almost no resource-rich nation had ever done. It turned volatility into stability, and temporary oil into permanent wealth. Today, Norway's oil fund is worth over $1 trillion. That's more money than the entire economy of many countries, for a nation of just a few million people. Per citizen, it's one of the largest financial cushions on Earth. But the real result isn't the number. It's what the number made possible. When the global financial crisis hit in 2008, Norway didn't panic. When oil prices collapsed in 2014, Norway didn't collapse with them. And when the world shut down in 2020, Norway had room to breathe, because the fund wasn't built to impress. It was built to protect. It stabilized budgets, absorbed shocks, bought time. While other oil countries cut services or borrowed heavily, Norway didn't have to. Schools stayed open. Healthcare stayed funded. Public trust stayed intact. The economy didn't overheat in good times, and it didn't freeze in bad ones. The fund became something rare, a buffer against chaos, a quiet backstop against uncertainty. And perhaps the most important result, Norway never had to rush. It didn't need to drill faster, or spend recklessly, or chase short-term growth, because it had already done the hardest thing. It waited. Norway didn't get lucky. It got patient. Plenty of countries found oil. Plenty struck black gold. That wasn't the difference. The difference was restraint. While others treated oil like income, Norway treated it like a responsibility. Something borrowed from the ground, something owed to the future. It understood a hard truth. Natural resources don't make a country rich. Decisions do. The decision to slow down when others rushed. The decision to say no when money said yes. The decision to build rules stronger than temptation. Rules that even politicians couldn't easily break. Norway didn't try to beat the market. It didn't chase growth. It didn't gamble. It simply stayed consistent. Year by year. Decision by decision. Turning temporary oil into permanent security. And that's the real story. Not about oil, not about money, but about trust between generations, between citizens, between the present and the future. Because one day, the oil will be gone. And when that day comes, Norway will still be standing.